I would like to welcome you all to this seminar. So good to see you. I've been quite disturbed or even fed up with Putin's picture of the Russian economy when telling us it's strong, it's resilient, and that sanctions doesn't work. But that is propaganda, and it's part of the warfare. So that's why I've been into this issue for quite a while now, and that's why we have this seminar, and that's why we will discuss this report. Because if we just take the Russian government's narrative, embrace it or believe it, we will do exactly what Putin will like us to do. He wants us to weaken in our support for Ukraine people. He wants us to believe that the sanctions doesn't work, but they do. And if you wonder why you're here, that's why we are here. So I'm very happy that we can discuss this today, and we will discuss Russian economy from another perspective. So will everything that is said today, will that be the truth? Of course not. But we will get much closer after this seminar than we were before. Let me just say 4 quite simple things that I've been, I think 3, thinking a lot of. Like when IMF writes that the Russian economy is strong, the GDP is whatever, 3.2 or yeah, that might be true. But we have to understand why. Why is the Russian economy then growing? It's quite easy. It's a war economy. They produce a lot of material, defense material, and in the short term, that's what gives them growth. In the long term, it's, of course, unsustainable growth. But even worse is inflation. I hear politicians or institutes or economists or talking about inflation, but we know that the interest rates is about 19%. And for me, as a simple Minister of Finance in Sweden, I have the central bank governor here, Erik Thedéen. He can talk a bit more about this. But if the interest rate is 19%, the inflation is much higher than the public figure says. And of course, the capital flight. Even before the war, the capital was leaving Russia, but it doesn't to much higher extent now. And that will, and we know that, it will decrease necessary investments. So that's where we're here. And I will just show you these pictures. Because everything we do, I know many of you are very engaged in helping Ukraine. It's all about people. It's about the Ukrainian people, it's about European people. But this, to the left here, is one of my very good friends, Sergei Marchenko. He's a Minister of Finance in Ukraine. And I think being a Minister of Finance is pretty, I like it, but it's a pretty tough job. But it's nothing compared to Sergei Marchenko's job. He's been a minister through all the war. He started, I think he got the job 2020. And meeting him, I took him here to Sweden last spring when all the Minister of Finance from EU and all the central bank governors came here because I wanted him to talk to them about what happens in Ukraine and that the support should not get weakened. Because when I meet my colleagues and other colleagues around the world, I can sense a bit tiredness of helping and supporting Ukraine. So we are doing this for him, of course, and for all the people in Ukraine, but also for ourselves. We went to Bucha, I will just show you, and some of you know me, I'm a bit impulsive. Impulsive, you know, in a good way, I hope, mostly. So I asked him, because he took me around, we went around in Ukraine, and we went to his home city, which his old school was destroyed by Russians. And then he said, oh, I have my parents, they live a couple of kilometers from here. I said, let's go to them. And probably you understand it wasn't just me and him. It was like 6 or 7 cars. It was so much security. But we went out and we met his parents and talked to them. And this is why we are doing this. That's why I showed the pictures. And he told me when we left, so he said, "You see, Elisabeth, I'm not coming from an oligarch family. His parents are very poor, doing hard work. He's doing hard work. So this is not like an academic seminar. It is, but it's more. It's giving a picture of the Russian economy, which is more precise and better than Putin's. And if we don't spread that picture around wherever we are, I'm afraid that more countries will weaken their support. So we're doing this for them, and I'm very glad that you're all here. And now I will leave the floor to one of our guests here today, Torbjörn Becker, who has written the report that he should talk about. And I'm also very happy to have other guests, and I will invite them up in a few minutes. We have Vladimir Milov here. He's an economist and also a Russian opposition politician. Many of you know him and knows about him. And we have Emil Vanheden, which is working at Swedish Defense Research Agency. They will all give their views on the report and, of course, on the topic. So we'll start with Torbjörn Becker. The floor is yours.